I'm going to address two elephants in the room. The first elephant is, who the fuck is this thing? This is Sophie, my new puppy. Say hello, Sophie. Say hello. The second elephant in the room is, what the fuck is with my camera quality? Why is it so good when my last video was absolute dog water? And there are two answers to that. What the fuck are you doing under my bed? Sophie, get the fuck... Sophie! I have no idea what my dog is doing. She's probably hiding from the invisible boogeyman, Candyman or some shit, but I have two answers for that. The first is going to explain why my audio and video quality of the last two videos sucked, and that's because I filmed it on this laptop. This is an Acer laptop from 2016. It has 6 gigs of RAM, runs an iCore i7 13th gen, and it has the worst video and audio quality you can imagine, and I thought that was funny. But there's also the second reason, the second explanation, as to why this video is really good quality. Normally, I film my videos using this iPad, but recently, I accidentally fucking broke it. So, I got a new replacement iPad, which ends up having a better quality camera than this fucking iPad. The iPad is still perfectly usable, but it has cracks in it. But since this iPad is better than this one, I'm just gonna throw it away, I guess. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I don't know, I might give it to a friend or something, but who knows? Maybe I might keep it. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with the second iPad, but I have a new iPad, which is what I'm filming it on. So now let's actually get into what the actual fuck we're supposed to be talking about in this video. Linux. I recently switched to Linux, and in this video I'm gonna be yapping about Linux, why I am potentially switching to Linux completely in the future, and what I think the future holds for computers. Now, for the record, don't take any advice that I say, because I am literally just a stupid fucking person on the internet talking to you about computer shit that I don't fucking understand yet. I only just got into it this year, and I'm just going to be yapping about what I do know, but I don't know fucking everything, because I literally just got into this month. Now, you might be asking a couple of questions. Your first question might be, what the fuck even is Linux? I'll explain it to you in dumb person terms. Linux is a kernel. What is a kernel? A kernel is basically like the heart of the operating system. It basically tells the computer what to do and like what to display. So basically everything on your computer, down to like the applications, literally the operating system itself, is based on a kernel. It's basically the computer language that tells the computer what the fuck to do. Linux was created by a Finnish guy named Linus Torvalds in the early 90s, and it's basically an open source kernel. Can you not? You're gonna make me think that there's fucking ghosts in my house. That's my dog, by the way. Yes, this is Sophie. This is Sophie. This is Sophie, yeah? Does including dogs in your video, like, up the viewer count, by the way? I'm gonna test that out. Hopefully it works. I mean, every person who has an apology video does it, too. Maybe I should make, like, an apology video with the dog. Hold on. Sophie, come here. Sophie, I need to make an apology video. Sophie, I need to... Sophie, I need to make an apology video. Can you be in the camera for me so that people gain sympathy for me? Can you do that for me? Literally every apology video ever. I've made a severe lapse in judgment. I am sorry. But here are multiple reasons why I'm right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I had to use my puppy for content, okay? I mean, every YouTuber does that, right? Anyways, I got off track. What about Linux is special? I'll talk to you about that. I am relatively new to Linux since I only found out about it just this month. I was somewhat aware of Linux's existence, but didn't fully understand what it was. I remember back in elementary school that some of the school computers had a Linux program on them, and then there was also the I use Arch, by the way, meme, which I never really understood back then. I just the only thing I understood for that was femboys, and so yeah, I am pretty much the noobiest fucking noob you can get when it comes to Linux. But I'm learning, okay? I'm actually using Linux. I'm learning about what the capabilities of Linux are, and so far, it looks pretty fucking crazy. Sophie, I'm gonna get distracted like 12 different times from this fucking dog. Anyway, I've been using Linux for a little bit. For the past few weeks, I've been using Linux, and I'm going to tell you about reasons why I'm considering switching to Linux completely in the near future, and why I think you should probably do it too. Although I'm not going to tell you to do it, it's your choice, but I'm going to tell you reasons why you should. Now, I'm going to start off with how I discovered about Linux's existence, and just how I experimented with it, and actually came to really fucking love it. So, basically, my computer, that fucking thing right there, this fucking, you see that, you see that light? You see that light? Yeah, that's my fucking computer. That's my computer that I make all of my videos on. What the fuck are you doing? Don't do that. Sophie, what the fuck are you doing? She's fucking eating the bed. I haven't put a cover on that yet. By the way, for the record, I do have a bed sheet. I just haven't put it on yet because I was in the middle of cleaning my room, but... Sophie, stop it. Stop. It's fucking annoying. I'm trying to explain Linux to YouTube. She does not care. Not a single thought in her fucking brain. Nothing. Just silence. Anyways, on that computer runs Windows 10, which for the longest time worked well, until as of recently, everything just started getting slow. In fact, here is a bit of a live stream that I did from my birthday stream where I attempted to play Poppy's Playtime, but it just wouldn't fucking do it. What the fuck is going on with my life? Can you check? I'm gonna check my own live and see if it's actually that laggy on anyone else's end.
Yeah, it's lagging quite a bit on my end.
Is it really? Is it like going like 0.5 frames per second?
Pretty much.
Oh, god damn it. How many frames is it looking?
Did that not make it any
Ooh,
better?
this is unplayable. This is actually just completely unplayable on stream. I'm sorry, I cannot play Poppy Playtime. Maybe for a different video, but I can't play it on live.
So that's a rare W on my end. I was able to play a game that you weren't.
So over the past like year or so, I've been realizing that this thing is starting to get fucking slow. So I was researching as to why it's just really slow. At first I thought it was because my storage was full. I had 1 terabyte of storage, and most of it was used up by games and shit that I have installed on there, as well as a bunch of videos that I just haven't edited yet. Hence why this video exists. But when I did delete a bunch of files off of my computer to give me like at least a bit of space, I got around 70 gigs of free space more. What? That was not English. I was able to free up 70 gigs worth of space on my computer. That didn't fucking do jack shit. So I decided to delete some applications that I just don't use, and that slightly worked, but it didn't work well. And while I was researching, you know, why the fuck is my computer so slow, I found out about Linux. And thanks to the many people on the internet that are rightfully calling out that Windows is just a bunch of fucking bloatware and a bunch of spyware that you don't want nor need, I thought to myself, Linux could be a viable option, but I still want to see if I could try to fix that thing. So I gave it more RAM and I gave it more storage. My computer originally had 16 gigs of RAM. I bumped it up to 32 gigs, and I also got an extra terabyte of storage. And I mean, it did work, but it was pretty expensive. And then I thought of the great idea. Wait, I remembered I have an old laptop that I haven't used in over 5 years because it's extremely buggy and it's extremely slow. So I thought, why don't I try to install Linux Mint on it? That was the most recommended distribution for beginners. I'll explain what distributions are, distros as they call them. But I decided to go with Linux Mint because that was the most recommended one for beginners, and I am as much as a beginner as you can get. I mean, I did run Linux Mint on that computer in a virtual machine, but the problem with that is it didn't actually give me, like, a solid foundation as to how much of a performance boost that is, because it is literally running inside of Windows. And if Windows is the problem, that's not really a good way to kind of measure how much of a performance boost it is. So I decided to try to hunt for my old laptop that I haven't used in over 5 years. Last time I used it was back in like 2020, 2021, early 2021. So I hunted down this laptop, and I first decided to completely factory reset this laptop because I didn't really care about the files on it anymore, so I completely factory reset it. I wiped the hard drive, and the reason I did this was because I wanted to see how not only the performance, but also the setup process would differ between Windows 10, like a fresh installation of Windows 10 compared to Linux Mint. Do you want to know how long it took to factory reset that computer? 6 fucking hours! But after I finished factory resetting this, I went along with the process of installing... What the fuck are you doing? I went through the process of installing a fresh installation of Windows 10, which took me about, 45 minutes. Then after that, I etched the ISO file of Linux Mint onto a hard drive. I plugged the etched hard drive into the USB drive and booted it up. Now, while the setup process for Linux Mint was almost the same as Windows 10, it did take less time. It took approximately 25 minutes, and it would have probably been a lot quicker on that computer, because this fuck-ass old piece of tech runs an Intel Core i3 7th Gen, has 6 gigs of RAM, which is almost the minimum requirement for Windows 11. Thanks, Microsoft. And let's see what else. Also has an Intel HD Graphics 620. This is fucking outdated. What the fuck? What the fuck did you just say to me? Who the fuck are you barking at? Don't know what the fuck that was about. Oh, okay, apparently Sophie is gone. Linux also asks less questions about your personal information, which I think is very muy bueno. Because, considering Microsoft is a very shady corporation, I don't really trust them with my personal information that well. Now, I don't have pictures to compare, but I remember the performance from Windows compared to Linux Mint very vividly. When I opened Task Manager and checked performance on Windows 10, the graphics card was through the fucking roof, and I wasn't even doing anything. No applications were open except for Task Manager. The RAM usage was also fairly high, and the CPU usage was 50 fucking %. That's just fucking nuts. Especially when you're doing literally nothing. You're literally just on the desktop screen. Why the fuck is it using half of my CPU to display the fucking desktop? But for Linux Mint, I can show you with Linux Mint. Hold on. The performance is a lot better. It is using up only 1 gigabyte of my video memory. The maximum percentage of my CPU usage is around 10%. And it overall works very fucking good. And this is old as fuck. Imagine how it would run on that thing. That thing has 32 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage with an NVIDIA GeForce 3090. At least that's what I think the GPU is. Anyways, I have that thing fucking beat the fuck out. Imagine how this operating system would run if that was the native operating system for that computer. Now, besides performance-wise, there are other reasons why I'm considering switching to Linux. And these reasons I found out after the fact. Number 1, Microsoft just gives you a bunch of fucking bloatware that you don't want. There are even some things that you don't want that you can't even fucking delete. With Linux, you don't really have that. You just have the programs that you need, and if you want extra ones, you can just get it yourself. It's not that big of a deal. Second thing, Linux doesn't blatantly fucking spy on you and give your fucking information to the government. Since Linux is open source, meaning it's made by the community and it's for the community, people generally respect your privacy. And this makes it quite hard for the government to get your information if your only, operating system, natively ever, is Linux. Of course, not to say that it's impossible, it's just really hard to do so. When in comparison to a mega corporation that doesn't give a shit about your privacy. It literally blatantly, explicitly says, hey, You want us to give out your information to other companies and the government? You could say no, but we're still going to do it anyway. Not only that, if you say no, we're just going to get rid of a lot of features on your computer. And the third one that I've recently been starting to get into is customization. I recently learned about what ricing is, which is what I'm going to get to in a minute. I've recently been trying to get into the whole ricing thing. If you don't know what ricing is, it's basically like completely changing everything about your computer. Like with Windows, you're probably able to change your wallpaper and the color theme. Okay, that's fine. But with Linux, you are literally able to change everything. Hell, you don't even have to use a fucking GUI. You can just use Linux with the terminal. You could literally just erase all of this, and Linux would still be like, yo, what you need? Now, there are, of course, a lot of downsides to using Linux. Of course, Linux isn't the most perfect thing, and I'll explain to you some of the side effects of using Linux. The first thing you'll notice with Linux is that Linux uses a completely different kernel, meaning that there are just some programs that just won't run on Linux because they run on Windows and not Linux. Generally, there will be third-party software that is also open source, which, in my opinion, are a lot better. I personally am not going to give my money to some greedy corporation just to do something that I can completely do on a free application that's open source and made by actual in-touch people. The second thing is that while with Linux, it depends on your distribution that you're using. Some distributions can be extremely beginner unfriendly. Some of these distributions include Arch Linux, hence the meme. It's because Arch is extremely hard to install. For Arch, you actually are just given the kernel, and you're basically left to configure everything else by yourself. It's like if you were given the car, but you were only given the parts and were just told, build the car. But at some point, you're going to have to use the terminal at some point, because it's just how it is. And I mean, you definitely should use the terminal, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone just wants to use Linux for its terminal. Some people just want to use a computer that works, and that's perfectly fine. If you're that type of person, Windows is a viable option. As long as you're fine with, them literally selling your information to random people that you don't know. Or the government. But when you become a Linux user, generally you have to be a bit more technologically advanced in your knowledge. Not to say that you can't just jump straight into Linux and then learn from that. That's what I'm doing right now. But if you're the type of person that just wants a computer that works, that's fine. And the cool thing with Linux Mint is that you actually, technically, you don't have to use the terminal. You should, though. But you don't have to. And you're also able to do fun stuff like this. Cowse. And you're also able to look like a hacker. Isn't that not sick? And the last disadvantage to using Linux is that it's actually very easy to accidentally fuck something up. Now, it shouldn't be that big of a deal if you know what you're doing, or if you Google something first. But with Windows, generally, if you're about to delete some potentially important files, Windows is going to ask you if you're really, really sure you want to delete it. Sometimes Windows will just straight up tell you no. But with Linux, that isn't really the case. It'll literally just do exactly what you say, which is a blessing and a curse, because even though Linux does what you tell it to do, Linux also does what it tells you to do. To avoid situations where you accidentally potentially delete files, I would recommend you run a separate virtual machine, which is what I've been doing with trying to rice, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And when you're doing it on a virtual machine, well, that's just a smart option to do, really. Another downside is potentially how many distros there are. I'll explain distros. Distros are basically... So, Linux is the kernel, which means that there are multiple operating systems that are based off of the Linux kernel, Linux Mint being one of them. But there are also other distributions like Fedora, Ubuntu, Red Hat, Arch, and NixOS, and there's also... what else? That's all the ones I really know at the top of my head. But there are fucking hundreds of different distributions. Generally, the more beginner-friendly ones is going to be Ubuntu or Mint. Mint is actually based off of Ubuntu to begin with, so I'm basically using Ubuntu. And what operating system you decide to choose entirely depends on what you actually use your computer for. But in general, I use it to browse videos on YouTube, play some games, and I also record and edit videos on my computer. So I decided to put my computer through the test. I wanted to see if my laptop could do all three of those things. I was able to get it running Garry's Mod, I was able to get it running Minecraft. I also have both of the Half-Life games and Goat Simulator downloaded on it. I haven't tested it yet. I have tested Phasmophobia, but the computer specs are just way too low for Phasmophobia, so it just didn't really work. Second was browsing the internet and browsing YouTube. That was actually fairly simple. This came pre-installed with Firefox, which I haven't used in a long time. The last time I ever used Firefox was on my dad's computer. And oh my god, would you look at that? It doesn't bombard you with fucking news articles and ads. Isn't that amazing? That's another thing I forgot to tell you about. The operating system doesn't bombard you with subscriptions and ads and fucking news articles. I don't want to read about the fact that the fucking Queen of England just fucking died on my computer when I'm trying to browse what games to play, okay? I just want to use my fucking computer. If I'm going to look at the news, I'm going to directly search for it. Don't fucking give it to me. Just do your fucking job, Windows. I was also able to get Discord running on this, which is pretty good. So I'm able to play games, I'm able to browse the internet, watch YouTube and all that stuff. The final test was editing a video. As you might have guessed, my last video was actually edited on this laptop. Every single component of that video, everything including the original video that I was dubbing over, was downloaded from this computer. And while it was slow, because of course this is a pretty fuck-ass old laptop, it actually worked. If I had tried editing on this laptop on Windows, this would fucking blow up. In fact, I'm actually going to be editing this video that you're watching on this laptop. My current editor, now, this is actually going to be a learning curve because, well, I don't know this editing software that much yet, but I'm currently using Kdenlive, and that's still going to be a learning curve, but that's going to be my main editing software from now on, hopefully. I mean, if you are seeing this video, the editing was a success. There was a few issues with editing, though. The main issue was I wasn't able to record audio within the video editing software itself. Whenever I did that, it would actually fucking crash. So I downloaded a separate application called Audacity, which I have used before. I know how it works. I just haven't really used it that much. And I dubbed over the I dubbed over the infomercial and edited it. Didn't have any issues after that. Using new software that you're not familiar to is always going to be a learning curve, just for the record. So from my tests, this thing actually works. It does exactly everything that I need it to do, with a few hiccups there and there because my computer's old software. So with that, Linux passed the test. It does everything I need it to do. I'm able to talk with my friends on Discord. I'm able to edit YouTube videos. I'm able to play games. I'm able to browse YouTube. It actually does everything I actually wanted to do. There were some hiccups there and there because the computer's fucking old, but it's perfectly usable. And that's just for me doing some of the more complex shit, like editing YouTube videos and playing games. Imagine how the average Joe that doesn't do that use this computer. Like, if they were, for example, to use it just for browsing the internet, or if they were to use it just for, work purposes, like if they work at an office job or something and they have to write a bunch of documents or whatever. This works fucking great. Like, I'm amazed that this works. This laptop is so fucking old, it still has a CD drive. My PC doesn't have this. Now for the final part of the video, I'm just going to show you what I've been trying to do with my Linux Rising and hopefully get some help with it because I don't really know what I'm doing. So let me show you what I've been doing with this computer. So I've been trying to get like a Fruitiger Arrow theme on this because I really like that aesthetic. you know, like Windows 7 Vista and like potentially XP. That's the type of like shit I've been trying to go for. Now the first thing I did was I changed the wallpaper. I also changed the menu icon, and I changed some icons. Downloaded some theme packs, some icon packs, and whatever. Because I don't really know how to edit the GUI files. But yeah, this is supposed to be semi-transparent. Hopefully you can see the transparency on that. But I know modifying like the GUI and everything involves like completely like going into your system files and shit like that. I don't know what I'm doing. But I just wanted to show you what my ricing looks like so far. At least my attempt at a rice. It's not great. But anyways, yeah, let me just shut this down real quick. I also want to change that as well. That's apparently called the splash screen. I just call it the boot up screen or the boot down screen, whatever. Apparently the actual name for it is a splash screen. I've been trying to edit the system files on a virtual machine on that computer, but it's really fucking confusing. That was a piece of dust that looked like a bee. But it requires me to know fucking code and shit, and that's too advanced for me. I've been trying to search online. It's a little helpful, but it's still very confusing. I'm wondering if there is anyone that knows anything about, like, this fucking ricing shit. The look I'm going for is kind of like a mixture between, like, Windows 7, Windows Vista, and then, like, Mac OS. I honestly think that would be pretty neat. So if there's anyone, and I highly doubt there is, considering my viewer base, but if there's anyone that knows fucking anything about modifying these files, please just let me know. I really need some help here. But in general, Linux is actually a very good it's not an operating system, it's a kernel. I like Linux, okay? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to see a shift too. I believe that 2026 will be the year for Linux computers. I mean, pretty much fucking everything, like, government agencies, NASA, your fucking mom's vibrator probably uses Linux somehow. If you're considering switching over to Linux, I would highly recommend either A, testing it on an old piece of hardware that you don't really give a shit about, that does work, or test it in a virtual machine and just see how you like it. Now, this doesn't mean I'm going to be completely switching over to Linux. I'm probably going to be switching over to Linux completely later this year or next year. Because there are actually a couple of things on that computer that I still need to finish. For example, there's an extremely big project that I'm working on. Stay tuned for that. There's also a shit ton of videos on there that I just haven't edited yet, and I still need to edit them, which requires me to still own Windows 10. And even after that, I might just dual boot both Windows 10 and Linux on it. Unless if Microsoft just completely does something that just makes me completely lose my shit and just switch over to Linux completely. But one thing is for certain, I will be using Linux. And I do legitimately think it is better than Windows. And if you're considering switching to Linux, I think you should. At least you should try it. Like, at least try it on an old piece of hardware or just try it in a virtual machine and just see how you like it. And you also don't need to stay and stick to just one distribution. You can absolutely change distributions. This is called distro hopping. Some people will get pretty riled up about that, but in general, I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I actually encourage you to change distributions from time to time, because you might just find the operating system that's for you. Personally, I want to see the hype around Arch, but I am not technically advanced to use Arch, so I'm still using Linux Mint for now. But anyways, yeah, that's the end of the yapping. Goodbye.